Gordeau thrives equally at applying long-range and point-blank pressure, while also being the not-so-secret third grappler of Under Night. Understanding how exactly his moveset is used to control the grid cycle can help one gain foresight into how Gordeaus structure their pressure. Before going over how to punish Gord, one must understand a powerful trait that makes him strong. Gordeau's assimilation command throws and force function steal grid from the opponent. Thus, controlling the grid cycle becomes even more tricky, as at any moment he can steal momentum and win the cycle if you're not careful. Quarter Circle Forward performs Gordeau's Mortal Slide, which is a good way for him to pester characters at a distance. The A version is -3 and the B version is -5. Gordeau has a follow-up that pulls his opponents toward him that is -6, that can be difficult to recognize in the chaos of a real match. However, Mortal Slide should almost always be shielded, as it guarantees you some grid, which is more important to manage in the Gord matchup than many other characters. And if you shield, the A version is at least -6, the B version is -8, and the follow-up is -9, which ensures a punish. Mortal Slide has a command throw follow-up. If properly shielded or simply blocked, the command throw follow-up will initiate a yellow throw that can be broken. On hit, this is a way for Gordeau to steal grid for catching you at a distance. The C version of Mortal Slide is +5, and Gordeau does not have any 5-frame normals, so on block you're immediately put into a state where you're vulnerable to being frame trapped, command thrown, or being baited to reversal out of the 2. Guard thrusting is not a bad option under these circumstances in order to take yourself out of a very advantageous mix-up position for Gord. Quarter Circle Forward in the air performs Mortal Glide. They are less tricky to deal with than Mortal Slide, as the A version is -8. The B version pushes Gord decently far back from his opponent, so a punish option is not free without some awareness. Just like EX Mortal Slide, EX Mortal Glide is +8 and sets up a very scary guessing game for Gord to thrive. However, guard thrusting is not suggested if Gordeau does a perfect TK glide, or a glide right before he lands, as he can land and punish the attempt. Gordeau's DP performs his Grim Reaper. It is a large hitbox on a forward advancing move. Despite it being a DP motion, it has little head and dive invulnerability. A and B are head invulnerable 15 through 16 and 9 through 10 frame respectively, and have dive invulnerability frames 13 through 16 and 7 through 10 respectively. The massive hitbox makes up for this property. Just be aware that if Gord is not properly reacting, this is not a surefire way for him to stop air approaches. Additionally, they are -6 and -15 respectively, so they are fully punishable if spacing permits. New to UNICLR, Gord can follow up with an additional slash after Grim Reaper. This is to dissuade people from trying to punish stray Grim Reaper attempts and allows a full punish. Shielding Grim Reaper mitigates this, as there is normally a 3-frame gap that is made into a 6-frame gap, and one can interrupt him. Moreover, the slash itself is at least -12, so punish accordingly. 63C is one of Gordeau's invincible reversals. It is -18, but good at punishing gaps and strings at a distance or shutting down air approaches. 2-2 performs Precise Aim. Gordeau slams the ground with his scythe. 2-2A is +7 and a good way for Gord to loop point blank pressure. 2-2B performs the scythe slam with an additional slash follow-up. It is very punishable on block and mostly used in combos, but with chain shift it can be used to gain significant point blank frame advantage. With meter, Gords typically use 2-2A meaty to get lots of frame advantage to apply pressure, and cancel into an invincible reversal upon seeing a reversal attempt. Though 2-2A gives Gord significant frame advantage, it has a lot of startup, and attempting it leaves Gord vulnerable to be interrupted mid-string. For example, a common mix-up applied with 2-2A uses -C to apply pressure. -C in and of itself is -8. So Gord uses this move to gain ground and cancels into specials, otherwise he is punishable. So he typically performs -C into either Mortal Slide or Precise Aim. If you block -C into Precise Aim, Gord can loop his pressure. However, 2-2A can be interrupted before it comes out for a punish. If Gordeau does a Mortal Slide, you'll be counter hit, but properly shielding Mortal Slide nets you a punish. chain shifting can mitigate this guessing game. However, it is not essential for punishing Gord. Thus, you need to be very aware of this scenario, as you can't recklessly hit buttons after seeing dash C. The startup of 2-2A is long enough that you can literally watch his scythe go up, then interrupt him, so I recommend studying this particular animation. 2-2C is Gordeau's most invincible move, with iframes from 1 through 28. It is very punishable on block, but is another excellent reversal option for Gord to rely on. Jumping quarter circle back performs an air version of precise aim that looks like the grounded B follow-up. The A version has some use in getting out the corner. However, even when Tiger Kneed, it still has 9 landing frames that can be taken advantage of. The B version performs a scythe slam similar to grounded 2-2B. It has a similar function and is punishable on block if spacing permits at -5. The hitbox is massive, so it can be made very safe at a distance, but be aware of poorly spaced uses of this move. And be aware of the frame advantage Gord has upon chain shifting this move. The C version does not have the invulnerability of the ground version, and to my knowledge it does not have many practical uses outside of combos. Finally, central to Gord's play is his assimilation, performed with quarter circle back. As I've already stated, this command throw steals grid if it does hit. 2-4A performs his grounded command throw. It has short range that was slightly buffed in UNICLR. However, be aware that it is throw invulnerable for the first 12 frames. 2-4B performs the anti-air version that has head invulnerability from frames 6 to 12. And the C version is fully invincible for the first 13 frames, the entire active duration of the throw. To add to all of this, Gord also has a command overhead, 6B. Gord is likely to cancel his 6B into 2-2A, as on hit he gets a full combo. And with this, you can use the opportunity granted by 2-2A to apply pressure using the frame advantage. However, if spacing permits, you can interrupt 2-2A with your normals on shield. This is another move that you might want to study the animation and hit him before the overhead comes out, as this is a particularly scary scenario to be placed in. A notable weakness with Gord is that he does not have 5-frame normals. Thus, even though he has ways to get frame advantage, many characters can attempt to take advantage of frame neutral states. And even though on paper his rebeats don't look bad, characters can take advantage of the little frame disadvantage Gord has upon rebeating. Up close, be aware that his 5B is 0 on block, as many Gords use his normal to end block strings rather than rebeating. Though it is 0, most characters are still technically at an advantage over Gord due to the fact that he lacks 5-frame normals. What he lacks in speed, he makes up for in range. Gordeau famously has some of the larger, more intimidating hitbox of the entire cast. 5C can notably hit from round start distance, and increased 5C is an overhead. Each of these has slow recoveries at -25, so they are very likely to cancel into specials from these options. Gordeau's force function is Rusty Nail. Like all other force functions, using it uses 1 square of grid. However, on block or hit, it steals a square of grid. If he is in Vorpal, it hits slightly faster, covers a large portion of the screen, has head invulnerability from frames 10 to 26 normally and 8 to 23 when in Vorpal, and is +1 on block. This move does not hit crouching opponents, so dash blocking can be particularly useful at avoiding Rusty Nail attempts, and he is vulnerable for approximately 40 frames upon whiffing for a punish. Mortal Slide has a bit more range than this 5C, but the increased 5C overhead can be used to catch opponents sleeping, especially if they are crouched waiting for Gord to whiff force function attempts. Moreover, 2C has a massive hitbox as an anti-air, and is relatively fast at 8 frames. So his 2C option select is very useful at discouraging point-blank throw assault mix-up pressure. On top of all his invincible EX move, Gord has noticeably the best backdash in the game, as it travels the farthest for a 22-frame backdash. And all backdashes are invincible frame 1 through 8, and throw invul from frames 9 to 10. Essentially, by controlling grid with his kit, he can find gaps in pressure, chain shift to punish the gaps, and force his intimidating point-blank game. Thus, understanding how to control the grid cycle is vital to beating Gord. Gord is a character that takes advantage of paralysis by analysis. Being too systematic in your approach of when to shield, when to punish, and how to approach are the precise things that he is able to sense and go for a command throw. It is essential to take advantage of the slow startup of Gord's range moves when the opportunities present themselves, and use this to take yourself out of his guessing game. At point blank, Gord is extremely scary, but characters that can apply quick pressure just outside of point-blank range to stuff his range game force him to guess in order to approach for his mix-up, and this scenario can be frustrating for Gord to deal with. Overall, Gord has all the tools necessary to be a very strong character. His only glaring weakness is the lack of speed on his normals. Thus, strong fundamental play and understanding of grid go a long way against Gord. If you have any additional information, please feel free to let me know in the comments.